Hello, MouseHunt. Welcome to Feedback Friday. Today is May 6th, 2022. I think I got the year right. Hello, good morning, evening, afternoon, everybody. My name's Dave. Hopefully, everybody in the chat is doing well. Looks like there are about 80 hunters hanging out with us. Hello to everybody. Hello, some early birds in the chat, even here. Generic Potato, I think. At least when I loaded the chat first in there. Hello, Potato. Aaron Voltaire. So nice of Taylor Swift to sponsor the new area. Michelle waving. Hello, Michelle. Aaron saying new area hype. Hello to you. Good morning, everybody. Alex, morning to you as well. Iram saying, but I'm not even done with floating islands. It isn't going anywhere. Don't worry. Don't worry. Good morning as well. Came Salim, so excited. Hello, hello, hello. So many hellos in the chat. Hello back to everybody as well. Brian, nice to see you. Yudashira, welcome back. Hello. Morning, Dave. You've been excited for this Feedback Friday. Fantastic. I think we all have been. We may as well dive right in then. That's a good segue to get started. And this week's Feedback Friday is about Folklore Forest, which we were running around some different names. We've settled on Folklore Forest as the name of the region because it's an upcoming new region that's going to start with 3 interconnected areas. And so we're going to give a little bit of a sneak peek, maybe just a few themes, a little bit of art, kind of give a little bit of the identity of each area, but we won't go into too much detail quite yet. Liar, it's May 7. Did I get the day wrong? No, it's the 6th. Listen, Shotgun Jackal in the chat there, preying on my insecurities. Even just this week, Monday, I sent out an email and I said it was 2023. I didn't even know what year it was, all right? So calendars are clearly my kryptonite. They are my weakness. Depending where you are in the world. All right. Well, you know what? If it's early morning for you right now, happy May 7 to you. Welcome to Feedback Friday. Chris asking, Dave, where do we get the soundtrack? I don't think it's uploaded anywhere right now. So maybe we can try to rectify that. That's a little tricky. But yeah, Folklore Forest here. And in a minute, Norm's going to join me as well. Dev Norm has been quite heavily involved in the Folklore Forest here. So he's going to join me and we'll chat a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's a new region. It says 3 areas where we're going to start off with there. And kind of the grand vision, not to get too ahead of ourselves, is to maybe add some additional areas to this region. But, we'll see how everything goes. But all the areas, these first 3 areas that start, they're very interconnected. So you're collecting things from one and another and taking it to another area. But then you kind of get to change your power type and your gameplay style. And hopefully, makes it feel kind of fresh as you travel throughout the different areas. It all leads up to crafting these drafts of Derby cheese, which are just the most spectacular little pieces of art that I've been enjoying looking at. And I tracked down the Mythweaver and stopped them from rewriting Nanian history. So that's kind of the big picture of what hunters are going to be embarking upon. I'll throw this out here as well. There's going to be some light spoilers ahead. So if you're the type of hunter who doesn't like to maybe see a mouse illustration before you capture it, you may want to cover up that side of the screen or just forego this maybe. Also, there'll be some images of the HUDs, kind of some backdrops of kind of the HUDs, heads-up display, because they give a little bit of a scene to take a look at, and a few items as well. So, full disclosure here before we go forward, a few light spoilers ahead. But nothing too meaty, nothing too heavy of a spoiler. Abraham asking, which region will it branch from next, the Laboratory or Whisker Woods? That's still something we're kind of firming up a little bit of how it unlocks, and I think we'll get into that maybe at a future date. Dan says, OMG spoilers, no. Everyone, just last minute here. When I bring in Norm, there will be some more things on the screen. So I don't know. Depending on what you're watching from, you can get creative if you put a piece of paper over this side of the screen. That should cover up almost any light spoilers that you may see. So, just heads up here. Dave ends up showing the wrong mice because Dave. Hey, Norm helped me pick out the mice, so I think we're safe. And what a segue, Voltaire saying, spoil me. All right. Well, I'm going to bring in Dev Norm. Good morning, Norm.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
But yeah, we'll dig in. We're going to do a quick little sneak peek at these 3 areas that are going to be the initial 3 areas in the Folklore Forest. And starting with the Forward Farm. And you'll notice the spelling of forward is a little different. And there's definitely a theme developing.
Oh, you spelled it wrong, though. It's WORD.
Oh, man.
Sorry, I should have proofread that. But you get the idea.
You get the idea. All right, we better correct that here.
Yeah.
It didn't get long until I make an error, eh?
It's a thought that counts, Dave.
It's the thought that counts. All right, how do you spell a book forward? It even has a red underline for me, so I should have known.
FOREWORD. Forward.
Am I spelling? Am I learning to spell? Do I get a gold star?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm watching slight delay, and yes, looks good.
All right, sweet. I have passed spelling class for this morning. Everybody saying hello to you in the chat.
Hello. Ah, Lorman, my favorite nickname. Love it.
So as a few hunters have noticed, eagle-eyed hunters, no pun intended there, with the tactical here. The forward farm is going to be a tactical area. But yeah, maybe Norm, say a little bit about kind of just the identity of the mechanics here, kind of what they can expect in terms of, active versus passive.
Yeah, so we tried to vary the mechanics quite a bit between the three areas, so they all feel very different and you play them in a very different way. The forward farm is meant to be a more active area, like there's more based around sort of management, hunt and resource management. So, it's something you want to, check back on a fairly regular basis and to achieve a sort of like an equilibrium, perhaps we'll say. So, yeah, one of the more active areas of the three.
Yeah, kind of nice. Add a little bit of variety, and hopefully as well, there's some other areas that kind of have a little bit of that going on, but because they're all interconnected, I think it's nice depending on what you're doing. If you're really busy, there's a kind of a more passive area and there's a more active area, so you can kind of manage where you're hunting based on what you have going on. Voltaire gave me a gold sticker. Thank you very much. Yeah, Brian, and, Dave's weakness is not just coffee and dates, but spelling too. Oh no, I am just a flawed human.
Yeah, in a very early iteration of the idea, it was meant to be sort of like 3 phases of a single area, but we decided to split it into different areas so that you can jump back and forth without having to sacrifice your progress in any area. So that is the kind of thing if you are about to go into a situation where you can't be as active, then maybe you travel to the more passive area and work your way through that, and you can come back and forth at your leisure.
Yeah, I meant to mention right at the top, actually, it kind of increased the motivation to switch up how hunting with friends works. And so even a couple Fridays ago, the topic was us exploring regional friend hunting as a first step, because it's kind of the easiest change to make. And we've gone ahead, we've implemented that, kind of finished testing everything, and if all goes according to plan, that's going to go live next week, actually. So you'll be able to hunt with friends who are in the same region as you. And that'll be very helpful here in the upcoming Folklore Forest, because you're going to be hunting in areas all in the same region, all doing kind of the same thing. Queso Canyon, that's massively beneficial there as well, I would imagine. Even Hollow Heights will be kind of interesting. If you have a friend in the Fungal Cavern, they could sound your horn for you, even if you're in the floating islands. So kind of makes things a little easier to go hunting with friends, see some friendly names in your journal more often.
Hey, Tribal Isles. There's a whole bunch of locations in the Tribal Isles, right? So
yeah, maybe you're doing, a map with friends
or something. Yeah.
Ibrahim asking what rank this place will be for post Floating Islands Archduke. Still kind of firming up everything a little bit, but it's going to be at least Archduke. It is safe to say it's going to be a high level area. So we might get into more of that maybe at a future date. Generic Potato, they're asking, is it like the Cursed City or more akin to the Sunken City of Queso Geyser style of activity?
This, like the farm specifically, or just the whole region?
The farm, maybe trying to draw a parallel to some of the other areas that have a little bit more active play. It's pretty unique on its own. But...
yeah, it is. I guess if I had to compare it, like mechanic-wise, maybe it's, or in terms of like activity, it might actually be more similar to like the Boiling Cauldron event, in terms of like keeping up with a certain keeping up with the mechanics and keeping things going in a certain way. Maybe that's a little similar comparison.
I think
Yeah,
that's
I think that.
that's a
Yeah.
fair comparison. Yeah, I kind of like too. I mean, it's appointment, like you're coming back to check on how things are going, but if you don't come back at a certain time, no big deal. It just means you start the next thing a little bit later. It's not like something bad is happening while you're away.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's yeah, there's no punishment for not being as active. They're just, you can, micromanage a little bit more if you choose to play it that way and become slightly more efficient, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a direction we try to get into the more active areas these days wherever we can. Have it be, if you come back, you're rewarded. You're not idle, basically, if you come back and check on it at a certain time. But if you don't, there's no punishment. Nothing bad is happening. You're not consuming a resource or like losing extra stuff. It's just you're kind of knock back to start something up as soon as you can. Some curiosity, I think, about the name of this mouse. Is that firmed up? Do we want to share the name of
Yep.
this
Oh,
hilarious
absolutely.
little
Yeah.
character?
The name is the Mighty Mite.
I like it, as you can imagine, being farm themed. Lots of wildlife, insects,
Hmm.
and the mice there. What they might be doing.
The pests.
Pests, yeah. I think that even still toying around with how you're arranging the subgroups a little bit, eh?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I've just been in the midst of mixing and matching that kind of stuff
And we
around.
started the grand rename. The working title we had was different. We finally landed on Folklore Forest, and so we're slowly renaming things so that our lexicon, we don't slip up when we start calling it what we decided on.
Yeah.
The spiral thing is the area cheese, is asking Chris about this acorn looking, seed
Oh,
looking
it's
item.
no, not a cheese. That is an item.
Yeah.
That is an item.
Well, maybe leave that a little bit nebulous. Well, we can move on here to the next area. Like we said, the three areas are all interconnected. They play very unique. They have a unique theme and mechanics and gameplay style, but you're collecting different resources. But they all kind of come together to achieve a common goal. Next up is the Prologue Pond, and the first most important question is: did I spell prologue right, Norman?
Yes, you did.
All right, sweet. But the Prologue Pond, as there might be no surprises, there being a pond and there is water involved, is a hydro area. It's juicy, very high resolution power type icon, actually. I was quite admiring this morning.
I know. I've never seen these high res versions before.
They're huge. They were illustrated. I think Jacob re-illustrated them at high resolution. And they have some juicy little detail when you zoom in. I'm used to looking at them as just these little tiny icons. Voltaire saying, "Oh wow, Hydro," and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, Reaper saying, "Oh, Hydro again." No, I think it's just too good of a thematic narrative fit. I mean, it's a pond. Hydro just makes the most sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Folklore Forward and Prologue, tan liking all the delicious puns that are working into the names, or the theming of the names at least.
Yeah, we came up with those names fairly early on.
Mako asking, please be a more interactive area, where I think that was the identity a little bit of the farm, nor maybe, I think we've already alluded it to, but the identity of the pond.
Yeah, so the pond is the more passive. So between the farm and the pond, the farm is the more active, the pond is the more passive. Imagine, like a lazy fishing trip. Right? You're sort of sitting back and collecting and taking it easy. So if you, like I was saying before, if you're in a situation in life where you can't be as active, then go take your boat out on the pond and put your feet up and cast into the water. Which is not to say that you can't be active, but just the gameplay does suit itself well for passive play.
Yeah, it's a great, you're away, you're very busy, you're not going to be checking very much. Kind of like the fungal cavern feel, if you will. It's like, the only sort of time you need to come back is if you think you're going to run out of cheese, basically, is the only important part anyway.
Yeah. But there's always moment-to-moment decisions you can make if you want. Like I, in particular, am a very active player, like extraordinarily active. So I will find a way to be active in even the most passive areas. So for those of you like me, don't worry, still be active.
Moo Tender in the chat getting a Coneheads vibe. I haven't heard that in a long time, actually. I haven't seen
Oh
that movie
wow,
in
yeah.
years. Hey, Scribdev popping in. Hello to you. Scribdev's excited about Hydro. Ian says, if we're only at the prologue in the second area, this is going to be a rushed ending, eh? Well, like we said at the top, kind of the grand vision is to expand on the region a little bit, so this may not be the end of the story. So it might be fitting that the pond being at the beginning of the region is the prologue and the forward.
And when we get to the name of the third area, I think that might even be more telling in that regard.
Yeah, actually, all three areas very kind of tie in with this being just the start of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Brian saying there was a time we had too much hydro in a row. Toxic Spill, the Sunken City, Fungal Cavern. So I think some people still don't remember that area or that era fondly. Eh? It was a pretty good mix, I think, right now. There's a few power types, and we'll wait till we get to the third one as well. But again, the nice thing being just the start of a region can kind of explore different power types as we go. The Floating Islands was a nice kind of high-level area as well to incorporate all the power types. But in a nice way, if you didn't have one, you could almost have some agency to avoid a specific island if you really didn't want to do that power type. So that was kind of nice as well. Mako also asking if it's going to be an Archduke area. It's going to be at least Archduke. We won't quite maybe reveal the final title requirement, but it'll be Archduke or above. It is true. We're still going to kind of finalize exactly the title structure, though.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be getting close to that decision, though. Very close.
Yeah.
And so I see people questioning about the cheese, so I'll just tell you it's called Camembert.
No shortage of puns.
Yeah.
They write themselves. Yeah, it's nice that, like we say, in the pond, it's very kind of, bread and butter, traditional, classic MouseHunt gameplay. Or you're getting some cheese, and when you use better cheese, you get better mice. But it has a nice twist to it as well, kind of loot-based with a twist. It has its own unique stuff going on, but your cheese is kind of more important than some other areas. Cheese is less important. So it plays nice. It plays very passively. Like we are saying, we've just went over the forward farm, being a little bit more active, some appointments to keep up, if you will. Check back every now and then if you want to kind of check on your farm, make sure everything's going well. That said, nothing bad happens while you're away, and the pond being more passive and just norm, like you said. It fits the theme of fishing, too. It's just relaxing, you're kicking back, you pull the hat down over your face a little bit, and you wait to get a nibble. Work on your tan a little bit. Chris loving it, saying it's an excellent cheese name.
That was Dave's idea, that name. It was brilliant. I remember we were having a brainstorming session. Yep, it was. You came up with Camembert. I'm like, done. I'm making it right now. This will never need to change.
Well, it's a team effort. We have no shortage of pun ideas usually. They're usually overflowing. Caleb asking, which mouse is this? Is the name of that mouse firmed up enough to share?
Yep, absolutely. This is called the Vicious Vampire Squid. So this one in particular was drawn by Lauren, and she discovered that a vampire squid is a real type of squid.
Terrifying.
So it just lends itself very well to sort of this to this mouse in this area. There are more difficult tiers than others of the mice in this area, and this one is on the more difficult end.
Yeah, I'm excited. Maybe we can demo it a little bit at a later date, but I'm really fond of how the HUD works and just how the cheese you use, how it's portrayed in the interface is pretty slick. I think great job all around, the whole team putting that together. Just puts a smile on my face.
The animations that Andrew and Parham put in are just, they're beautiful. Some of them are just, I just want to click around all the time to watch things change back and forth because it's a thing of beauty.
A vampire squid in a pond, impossible? No, but not for the vicious vampire mouse, though. Squid mouse. It's a completely different creature. More areas, saying Scribble. We'll move on here to the third area that kind of brings it all together, where you're collecting unique resources, but they're all interconnected. So you're going to be farming, you're going to be fishing to take some important resources to the table of contents, where a bit of a final showdown happens, kind of where the main rewards sort of start to come into play, and you're starting to use your resources in strategic ways when you arrive at the table of contents. And I'm loving the HUD illustration sharing because there is a pun that is literally a table sitting out there in the forest there. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a literal table of contents. Jackpot name. Yeah.
Oh, Potato asking there about animations. Is there a way to turn them off to avoid angry browsers? I think maybe the feedback we took were idling animations, being able to toggle those off. Because MouseHunt's a very second screen game. You might be, playing another game and have MouseHunt on another screen. You might be doing a little bit of work and have MouseHunt. That's my day every day, basically, is doing work on this screen and I have MouseHunt on my other screen. And so, the floating islands dirigible bobbing in your peripheral vision kind of isn't a good fit for that second screen feel. So definitely any kind of idle animations, I think that's feedback we've took to heart. Have a way to toggle those off. But like transitional ones, they're temporary. They only happen when you interact with the game. So, it's kind of open to feedback, but we're a little more open to keeping those around.
Yeah, as of right now, I don't think there are any idle animations at all. I'll double check that. And if there are, we'll make sure there's a way to switch them off. But yeah, the majority of the animations, at least that I'm thinking of, are all, they're all, as you said, transitional. Like you click something, something's changing, it's a one-off animation, has a beginning and an end, and then you're back to your static state,
Ryan disappointed that there was not alliteration in the third area here, and the chat as well picking up at, yes, the forgotten power type icon is chilling out there. So yes, the table of contents will be a forgotten area. I see some RIP physical when I think there might be something in the works there, but we'll see. Nothing in these three areas at least.
We'll see.
But there might be some fun stuff to share at a later date in terms of the future of physical.
Yeah. Don't worry. We have many irons in the fire.
Walter saying,
Yes,
so we're
the
only
high-res
just...
forgotten icon. The high-res forgotten icon is awesome. I was staring at it for a while this morning, and it's like a hypnotoad moment.
Can I hypnotize you a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
I just need this to like rotate.
Yeah.
It's juicy, it's like a little gummy
nice.
candy.
Yeah, you get lost in that.
Moving. And this cheese I am just in love with. That Lauren
The
created
cheese is
here.
extraordinary. It's extraordinary. Yeah.
And there are tiers of the cheese here, and so there are 3 of the tiers. Not to say that's all of them, but it's Draft Derby is the name of the cheese, and it was absolutely inspired to make the very first draft the crumpled up version of it.
Yeah, that's actually the curd.
The curd, right? Sorry.
Yeah, to make the Draft Derby curd, crumple up piece of paper. Yeah, and then there's the various drafts that come afterwards that are made from it.
If you've ever wanted to eat a book, well, yeah. I'm tempted when I see these. It looks crumbly and delicious.
Yeah, they're extraordinary.
Ryan asks...
Cheese and...
go ahead. After you, Norm.
I was asking about the cheese and mouse names. So the mice there are called the Brothers Grimmouse. The cheese, as we sort of just mentioned, there's the Draft Derby curd, and then the ones you're looking at there are First Draft Derby and Final Draft Derby.
Yeah, we did a recent shift in the design away from cheese to introduce a curd, and everything kind of simplified, worked the same way, and actually flowed a lot better. So slowly chisel that back into my brain. Just like saying Folklore Forest, where that's good. We renamed everything, so we're reading Folklore Forest as much as possible to have that roll right off our tongue. Potato saying, this table of contents makes it look like unlocking the next areas could have some global goals related to this release. Interesting little speculation.
Interesting observation, yeah.
But definitely, yeah, as you can see from the theming of the names, a forward, a prologue, and a table of contents. These are all just the start of the story. Pat asking, what will this taste like? Like a book taste? You know, that book taste we're all so familiar with when we eat the books, a little bit of dustiness. So a lot of love for that. That is kind of beautifully illustrated mice too. I love the lighting coming out of the book
Oh, I love that.
and the hair.
It looks so magical, right? Yeah. Uh,
Shotgun being confused. Shotgun Jack there in the chat being confused. Why is the table of contents coming after the prologue, after the forward for sure? You know, I think technically though, you don't necessarily need to go in that order though, do you, Norman? That might.
No, well, typically the table of contents just needs to come before the chapters, right? Because it's usually a list of the chapters. But I think we found some examples where um, they came in that order for the forward first, and then the prologue, and then the table of contents, and then the meat of the book begins.
Even gameplay wise, you're gonna jump around a little bit, so
That's true, exactly.
the farm and
You're
the
not,
pond probably first, but
yeah, but you're not forced in any particular order. Yeah, you can move around at your leisure, and I would be curious to see if different people find different strategies about one area being better than the other as doing it in a different order. But yeah, there's a lot of freedom there, which was a big driving point of our design.
Scribdev in the chat with an astute observation. Some speculation around ink, perhaps seeing a squid-themed mouse. That might be an interesting observation Scribdev is making there. Yeah, we'll call you Squid Dev for the rest of the Feedback Friday. Ryan asking there, maybe you missed it, but do you know the ETA of the area? Nothing to reveal quite yet, but actually we'll get into next a little up. Yeah, what are we, 5 minutes, Norm?
Yeah, I guess so. You just gotta flick that switch, right, Dave? And then
yeah, sure it is. I'll do that on this other screen here. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but before we wrap up as well, give a little snapshot of where we are in development right now, kind of what we've finished, what we're currently focused on creating, as well as a little bit of segue into some feedback as kind of we firm up some decisions and as we're doing our own internal play testing of the area. It's always nice to kind of throw out some sentiments there and just kind of see what reactions players have, what conversations naturally come up during and after stream as well. Kind of, it's good food for thought as we do our own internal play testing and tune things a bit. Any connection to the Crystal Library? No, unfortunately, the library is a little too old to tie in with anything else. It's in need of someone to sit down and crack the knuckles and delete all the code and then create it in a more modern way, basically.
Yeah, I do have a bit of a soft spot for the library, at least conceptually. I think there is a lot of potential there, but yeah, as you said, it needs a bit of an overhaul. It needs some TLC, but it's a cool area. It's a cool idea.
Final Heart with an interesting question there. Roughly how strong are you expecting the mice to be? Maybe Norman shed some light on, as we do our internal playtesting, kind of what traps are we considering sort of entry level for each of the areas?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say like an overall broad stroke, the mice are, will be appropriate to sort of the level of the area, obviously. In each area, there will be easier mice and tougher mice, especially when it comes to bosses, like the Mythweaver and others. In terms of traps, again, none of the balancing is set in stone yet, but I typically do most of my sort of testing and balancing with maybe the second to third from top tier trap. So something of what I feel is sort of probably appropriate for an Archduke or above to have, not necessarily like the big end stretch goal. But yeah, something that seems appropriate. And again, some will be more challenging than others, and there'll be sort of ways to sort of mitigate that and manage that. And like the really difficult mice, it's not like you're going to be facing them tons and tons of times, so it might be advantageous to use more powerful charms during those moments, that kind of thing. Yeah, so there's a bit of a range. There'll be some mice that are fairly easy to catch, and others that are a challenge.
And that might be a good segue kind of into what we're working on next and kind of what's been on our mind while we do some internal play testing here, and just a little update on, hey, where's the forest in the development phase here? The farm and the pond are functionally complete. And actually, we just grabbed the background, some of the art from the HUD, but the HUDs and interfaces and gameplay is all up and running as well. So we're able to play those two areas pretty well in their entirety. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of tuning to do as we go and some extra polish here and there. So we're focused on developing the table of contents. That's kind of what the whole Folklore Forest had happened. All right, everybody. Put one mark on the whiteboard.
Well, though, hey, you made it half an hour. That's pretty good.
Strike one.
Yeah.
The whole Folklore Forest team is focused on the table of contents, as well as what's kind of been on the minds is firming up the pacing for adventure, how quickly you complete the adventure, how quickly you earn the rewards. There's also some area-based upgrades in the area that kind of make you better at the area over time, beyond just upgrading your trap. Similar to kind of some other areas where you kind of make yourself better at that specific area with new abilities. So that has a little bit of pacing questions around it as we play test. And like you said, Norman, you're going through the areas with maybe not like the above and beyond stretch goal traps. And I think that was some takeaway from the floating islands, whereas some of the identity of those traps were above and beyond the expectation of, hey, not everyone's going to get this trap, but that's okay because the next area won't kind of have that trap in mind. It's going to be seen as above and beyond, or overkill for the next area, if you will. But I think the feedback we got over the course of many months and years from the floating islands is that maybe those aren't as good as stretch goals, and traps need to be a little bit more lower down in the sort of progression of time and effort. So we're just interested to see sentiments of hunters in kind of pacing adventures of how long do you expect an adventure to take versus getting all the rewards from an area versus unlocking all there is to do, all the, maybe collectibles or above and beyond things that aren't critical to moving on to the next adventure, but to kind of say, I did all there is to do here, Did I misspell?
I noticed that. Yeah, somebody pointed out functionality instead of functionality.
Well, functionality complete. I need to spend more time at the table of contents learning how to write.
Yeah, but yeah. So to that end, what you were saying, Dave, is that we wanted to sort of incorporate some other types of goals for people to go after, right? And that's where we get into sort of the. I can't get into too many details, but with regards to area-based upgrades is a unique thing, separate from traps and bases.
Yeah, not to get too ahead of ourselves as well, but that's kind of alluding to this being the start of the story and kind of some areas being important about resource collecting to bring those resources elsewhere. Kind of making yourself better at these areas might be advantageous eventually as the story gets longer. So there's some room there for different pacing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, potato drawing comparisons, Fort Rocks upgrades or Valor Rift upgrades. Yeah, something along those lines. Right? That kind of you get better at the area, but obviously there's a little bit of time to get that good at that specific area. But some additional goals other than just upgrading your trap, Alex asking, what level prestige do you use when doing play testing?
I usually do a floor 180 as a minimum. Just to be sure that no, I'm joking. I sometimes use the prestige base for testing when I'm going for higher end stuff. To be honest, so far I've been doing most of my testing with jewel base, the Imperial jewel base, because it's a relatively easy base to attain once you've got the floating islands. I think it costs just one jewel and then a chunk of gold. So it's a nice, probably a reasonable ask, I guess, for the majority of players that might be in this rank.
Yeah, but, even as the jewel base came together, sort of put that at the expected sort of prestige base level, if you will. Like it's the equivalent of if you didn't do Valor, or if you kind of did Valor Rift without devoting a whole lot of effort to it, you should have about that level of prestige base equivalent of a jewel base. So
yeah. I'll usually do a lot of my playtesting with that, and then I'll switch to my base, which is a floor 126, and I'll be like, how am I gonna do? So
I think even playing through the floating islands, we had the jewel base armed pretty much, as that's sort of the expectation of you should have this to have an okay time. And there's some tricky mice in the floating islands, though.
Yes.
But it's kind of nice there. You have the agency of power type, so you can kind of duck and dodge them a little bit. Hart asking, are we getting new traps for the forgotten hydro tactical power types? Seems a little soon since the last upgrade to those. Won't go into too much detail. Obviously, there will be some new traps stirring in the areas. But, in general, a lot, not always, but as a lot of areas play out, the upgrades you earn kind of at lower level areas might be useful as you move forward, right? So, kind of as we look back at these areas, being tactical, hydro, and forgotten, these first three areas, certainly tactical and forgotten you could earn in the floating islands, kind of being at an Archduke level. Hydro, maybe not quite so much, but you can maybe expect more. The rewards that you earn from an area are going to help you in your future travels more than just help you in your current travel, if that makes sense. I always found a little awkward with the train, kind of the big time rewards for the train were traps to make you better at the train, but by the time you earn them, I'm done everything there is to do at the train. I don't want these, right? So it kind of flows a little nicer if you're earning something that's useful as you continue on and take on a new adventure.
Yeah. Something for maybe what's to come. That's always nice.
And Brian with a little speculation as well, but it might be an okay assumption to think the rewards from the area might not include the power types that you use at those areas, sort of. Again, as we were just saying, thinking ahead to where you might head to next. And Reaper saying, Norman low-key flexing your Prestige 15 base.
I got lucky, but I also put a ridiculous amount of work into that thing. I think Dave told, I don't know, I was telling Dave, so I did my Prestige push during Lunar New Year this year, and it took a lot out of me. I was doing I think 115 hunts a day. I mean, including friend hunts and everything, right? But that's 5 away from the absolute max that's even possible. I was literally waking up in the night to do a hunt so I could make sure I could get my next, few friend hunts and that kind of thing. And by the end of the Lunar New Year event, I was just wasted. But I had my T15, so I was happy.
You got a shiny base to show for it.
Yeah,
we'll see if I ever finish in the Living Garden. We'll see how many ultimate charms I end up with. Maybe I'll go back one time, more time.
That's the dream, right? The ultimate charm run. Yeah, one day.
Jack there asking if it's going to be like the Rift Plane, where it's its own group of areas, with things that work throughout the area. I mean, it's its own region, right? Its own storyline. I think Norm's you're playing around with how to group the mice a little bit, but I don't think it would be quite the same grouping way we've approached the Rift Plane.
No, I'd say it's no. Yeah, not like the Rift Plane. It won't be all sort of lumped in together. They'll be, in that sense, they'll be treated as 3 separate areas. So there'll be a group for the farm mice and a group for the pond mice and a group for the table of contents mice.
Reaper asking, any spoilers on area charms? I mean, in general, it's something we've shied away from a little bit. I think a big revelation was adding some of that functionality we used to put into charms and making it in the heads-up display as kind of power-ups and abilities you use in the area, and it really resolved a lot of issues. One, there's just so many charms you kind of forget what they all do, and they're always sitting there in your inventory versus something like Lantern Oil, Bottled Wind, Magic, I was going to say Magic Essence, that's not quite the same. But, those things that you activate from your HUD, they only appear while you're in that area. You could go and see how much of the resource you have, but it's not kind of cluttering up your charm slot either. You're free to make use of your entire arsenal of just charms that have good stats. And so it doesn't sort of dictate, well, no, your charm slot is just always going to have that charm in it, and gives an element of agency and choice. You get to pick which charm you want to use. And Norm, like you said earlier, it's nice when you go up against a tough mouse that you don't encounter a lot in repetition. It's a great time to pull out some of those, hard to get but really powerful charms, and that feels good.
Yeah, because those are the kind of moments that as a player, I really enjoy. I like when even talking about the prestige push is I like that idea that I can just put all this time and energy and strategy into planning this thing. And it's like, okay, now here's my big moment, and I'm going to put on like my best stuff, and maybe I activate an aura if I've got some or something like that. And like, it just makes it feel more epic and exciting and engaging. Right. So yeah, there'll definitely be moments where they're like a limited amount of time, or rather a limited amount of hunts, that you're like, okay, we're going to go for it, you know?
Those nice kind of climatic moments.
Definitely. And that's very important, especially with an area that's all about story and narrative, right? That we want to have a really good climatic moment in the end of the beginning, anyway.
And they're whole tied in the chat saying area-specific charms means you can't use your actual charms. Yeah, I think that's kind of our philosophy as well, based on lots of feedback over the years as well with different areas. That was kind of a light bulb moment, I think, for both players and us to kind of move that stuff into the HUD. And imagine, the iceberg, if you could arm wax and sticky sort of fuel from the HUD, then you'd be free to use really powerful charms as you're going down the iceberg if you're trying to, maybe set a new personal best for how quickly you make it to the bottom. Oh, Jack saying I meant more upgrades in later areas of the regions, like how the Rift bonus was upgradable. Nothing quite like that right out the gate, eh?
Not yet. No, nothing like that. I mean, we haven't fully fleshed out the reward structure. But yeah, we don't have anything quite planned. Well, I have had a couple of ideas. You know what? I can't really say. I can't really say. It's a little bit too soon to divulge any details in that regard.
Yeah, well, kind of what we reference with area-based upgrades, at least right now, are things that make you better in each area. So, it might get into the specifics maybe on a different Feedback Friday, but as you can imagine, on the farm, you're doing some farm-like activities, and at the pond, you're doing some fishing-like activities, and you can imagine how you might become a better farmer and a better fisher at those areas of capturing the mice and getting some objectives completed.
Yeah, upgrades like geared towards the gameplay mechanics specifically, helping the mechanics, making them more efficient, or providing different options, those kinds of things.
Yeah, interesting comment there from Chris saying, could we get a development Feedback Friday every now and then? Artwork and gameplay be interesting to have like code technical mechanics session every so often. Yeah, that might be interesting to see some overlap, even the mechanical design, if you will, kind of the game design aspect of it rather than the end result. Kind of seen some process. That might be interesting. The coding aspect might be a little bit more niche. It's hard, right? If you don't have a coding background, it's not as transferable as looking at art. I feel like most people can appreciate nice art and appreciate nice game design, but without knowing how coding works, it's sometimes not too easy to appreciate that topic. But I could see that being a nice little niche area. Well, shall we transition to some trivia, Nora? Is it trivia time? The Quar, yeah. I need Giorgio to bust in with Quar. Hasn't had an impromptu bust in a while. This week's trivia question, and we kind of strained to think of something this week, but which other release, Norman's proofreading this question as we speak, which other release added a new region that started with 3 areas? So upon initial release, hey, brand new region was launched and it had 3 areas in it. And bam, that was a pretty darn easy answer. Queso Canyon is correct. As far as I can recall, I think that was the only region that we've added, and when it was first released, it had 3 areas in it, and then the geyser came a little bit after. And so, we maybe have a little bit of a similar inspiration to do something similar with the Folklore Forest, but obviously one step at a time. Get the first 3 areas out, get feedback, and kind of see where everything lands. And it's nice to be a little fluid sometimes as well. So I think that was the first one. Whisker Woods, did they all come out at once? I don't think they all came out at once. I think the Calm Clearing came out first. Can we fact check? That just made Norman freeze. That was a good freezing moment there too, actually. That's nice that works that way. If you go into the background, it freezes. To the always studious and dedicated wiki hunters, I thank you. We're going to see when the Calm Clearing came out. The timeline, I love that article.
Mm. Yeah, I use the wiki a lot.
No, they were not all released. They were very close together, but in March 2009, the Calm Clearing came out, and then in April, the Great Gnarled Tree came out, and then the Lagoon came out. I don't want to say June, but I'm having trouble tracking that one down. But no, they didn't all launch at once, so I think we're good. I think we can reveal the reward, maybe. We're confident that this is potentially a correct answer. I will put the reward link in the chat as well for your clicking convenience. Swift saying Living Garden doesn't count since the Sandtail wasn't new. Exactly. This is a nuanced question, actually. You know, it's a little bit of a trick question, maybe. And yep, Tribal Isles was way more than 3. I'm pretty sure that if they all didn't come out at once, Cape Claude and the 3 tribe areas, Elub, Nurg, and Dur all came out at the same time. So that would have been 4, not 3. If we said at least 3, Tribal Isles might have been a candidate. Maybe this was an appropriate trivia question, Norman, because it seems like it's trivia in linguistics and parsing this. The true meaning of what these words mean.
Yeah. Ties into the theme of the area. I'm guessing you did that on purpose, Dave.
Oh, for sure.
That's for sure.
I mean,
always
all
one step ahead.
All the mastery of the English language I demonstrated on those other slides. It's gotta be obvious.
Yeah. That's why they keep tuning in, Dave.
Are we in the mood for a silly trivia as well?
Yes. I'm going to speak for everyone and say yes.
Yeah. In the chat, let us know, are you in the mood for a silly trivia? I mean, I shared something on the Discord. I borrowed a pun, all right? I can't take credit for this pun, but I couldn't resist when I saw it. Hermandy's saying sure. That's good enough for me. Mm-hmm. Sure. Scrib saying yes. Always in the mood for silly trivia. All right, Gerald, you're in luck today. Today's bonus trivia question, there will be no reward for this other than just the enjoyment of the answer. And it's, can a mouse and dinosaur be combined? Right? Is it possible? Yes, no. I think the only suitable answer is you bet your ass it can. Because the Jurassic mouse is an example of, a mouse and dinosaur can be combined. I mean, you bet your ass it can. Nice. Borrowed the pun, but when I saw this pun elsewhere, I couldn't resist it. When I knew there was a Jurassic mouse waiting.
Science has gone too far. That's good. I like that. They were so preoccupied with whether they could, they never stopped to think if they should.
Yeah. Hold on to your butts. But I did my best to contribute to the MouseHunt channel on Discord. And I saw a window of opportunity, and I thought I'd pop in with a facepalm moment. Where I'm saying biologists hate this one organism. Just seeing the fusions, and it's kind of interesting to actually see the progression of some of the characters. I mean, Whisker Woods, I know we've re-illustrated some because some of them were maybe a little too much of an animal mouse fusion. But you know, it seemed like a little dino mouse fusion going on in the Jungle Dread, and even the progression. If we go back to the farm, the Mighty Mite here, I feel like the fusion of different sort of themes has gotten a little stronger over the years in the character design. So it's interesting seeing the progression.
Sure. They all have. They all have a strong character. The character is not just, it's this animal, but also a mouse. They have a character of their own. Like I love that Mighty Mite, just like the outfit, and like it just seems like, you know, the old timey bodybuilder. And the vampire squid, like that, the outfit looks, it's just very, very telling. It's very like it tells a great story right there, right?
Yeah. All the characters being more than the sum of the parts. It's not just a squid mouse. There's a bit more story to it. Mm-hmm. New Dino Area ON. Well, I don't know. We'll see. That would be quite the dreaded area, I think. Well, anything else you want to touch base on before we say our goodbyes, Norm?
No, I'm worried if I talk too much longer, I'm going to spoil more. So we should probably cut it now before I reveal the... So unfortunately, I won't say that.
Norman, how dare you mention? And that's all you have to do.
I can't believe you would just say that.
But hopefully everybody enjoyed a little sneak peek at what's to come with the Folklore Forest, new region, 3 areas, all interconnected, kind of collecting different resources, a little unique gameplay in each area. They all blend into one another. I think we can kind of dive into a little bit more specifics kind of as the release creeps up. Like I said, we've finished the farm and the pond. We're focused on table of contents. So, I don't know if that exactly means we're 66% done because some of the areas are a little bit more work than others. But hey, in at least some capacity, we're 2/3 of the way there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I look forward. We can do a little bit more behind the scenes look, maybe even some demos of areas as things kind of firm up a little bit. Future Feedback Fridays and get a little bit more into some more specifics around rewards. But in the meantime, we're always excited just to even hear what conversations come up, what speculation occurs, because it kind of helps give us a good frame of reference as we're doing our internal playtesting, just to kind of see what's going through players' minds at the same time. So please, keep the conversation going. We like to lurk on the Discord server and various Facebook groups as well. You probably see us peer in there every now and then. And where have you, Facebook page, anywhere you kind of discuss MouseHunt. We try to lurk and try to absorb the collective consciousness of the player base as we're doing our play testing. So please keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I always loved reading these comments on the YouTube streams. It's remarkable some of the observations that have been made today. I won't single anything out, of course, but I've been very impressed.
And within the chat itself, just a little theory here and there that kind of aligns pretty well with the way we're thinking. That's nice confirmation rather than spelling it out and getting confirmation. It's kind of nice. You just give a taste and see like, oh, they're kind of thinking the same thing we are. Cool. I think we're all on the same page. Table of contents. These puns.
And on that note.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us this week, Mouse Hunters. Norman, thank you as well for your time today, popping in and helping me out today.
Always a pleasure.
Had a blast, everybody. We'll see you next week. It'll probably be, I don't have a calendar in front of me whatsoever to know if Jacob's off next Friday or not. I don't know, but somebody will be around on Friday. Whether it's me, Jacob, or who knows, maybe some surprise. I don't know, but someone will see you next week for next Feedback Friday. Thanks again, everybody, for joining me. Happy hunting. Have a fantastic weekend. Thanks again, Norm, for joining me. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
2.
You're a trap, you're a trap. Don't seem to mind it. You attract me. I'm a mouse, you're a cat. I don't seem to mind it. Soft and furry. Oh, and just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Just when you think you're safe, snap. I come back. You don't seem to mind it, but I'm a fool. Broke my back. You don't seem to mind it, 'cause you're so cool. And just when I think I'm safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe, snap. Ooh. And just when you think you're safe, snap. Turns out I'm never safe.